Welcome to the pitch. My name is Anthony Visconiosi, and I'll be your moderator for tonight's program. As a reminder, our program is broadcast monthly and is scheduled for the second Thursday of every month at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. At each program, we will present two promising companies who will share their technology and business plan with our panel of experts, and of course, with you to judge the future of this opportunity. To begin with, it's my pleasure to introduce to you our esteemed panel. Let me please begin by introducing Audrey Beckman. Audrey is an independent business consultant with a long history in the medical device industry. Audrey's executive roles included 20 years in product development, along with 10 plus years in strategic initiatives and professional education at Zimmer and Zimmer Biomet. Audrey is our strategic advisor. Our next panel member is Michael Sherman. Mike brings more than 30 years of experience in the medical device industry, including 20 years in the orthopedic product development area and 9 years in venture capital. At what was Sophomore Danek is today Medtronic Spine, Mike received the recognition as being the largest single patent holder in Medtronic Spine, with more than 120 patents issued to his name. Mike is a leading innovator. And now may I introduce to you Dr. Scott Bruder, MD and PhD. Scott also brings more than 30 years experience. First, as a clinician. Secondly, as a scientist. And more recently, as a leader in product development, particularly in the areas of biotechnology, cell therapy, and diagnostics. Dr. Bruder is our clinician, scientist, and bio-developer panel member. And as for me, I've spent my career as an entrepreneur, as an executive, and as a financier in the neuromusculoskeletal industry. Today, I have the good fortune of operating with my two brothers, John and Mark, our family office that is dedicated to investing in our family capital and the capital of others in the neuromusculoskeletal industry. Together, my brothers and I have founded more than 35 businesses in this space. We've formed and operated more than 15 investment funds dedicated to investing precisely in this space. We've exited more than 18 companies exactly, generating more than $2.5 billion in exit value to our lenders, our partners, and ourselves. And importantly, those have resulted in a 3.5 times multiple on invested capital for ourselves and partners. And when we have done carve-outs, carving out a technology product line, we generated 3.7 times MOIC. That's what we do with that skill set. It's my pleasure to introduce to you this evening Whitecloud Technologies. And here's the question I'm going to pose to you. It has nothing to do with Hound Dog. What if the venerable pedicle screw product that's used for spine fixation was completely reimagined by a practicing spine surgeon with 29 years of clinical experience? And what if that delivered significantly better bone fixation? Well, this next company, Whitecloud Technologies, is the brainchild of Dr. Frank Castro. And he thinks that a malleable design could replace the threaded screw. Dr. Castro, and the pitch. Here we go.
Hi, I'm Frank Castro, Chief Creative Officer at Whitecloud Technologies.
And I'm Natasha Lonin, CEO of Whitecloud Technologies and former CEO of Cardinal Spine.
Together we brought to market the world's first FDA-approved non-expandable
cervical vertebral body replacement device. Cardinal Spine's Palo Alto CVBR patents and the investigational device evaluation were acquired by K2M in 2016.
The IDE consisted of 97 patients followed for 41 months. Those results were published in 2018. In 2021, we published the 5-year follow-up results of the initial 59 patients receiving a single-level corpectomy. The Palo Alto CVBR is now the industry standard for all cervical corpectomy device comparisons.
We have raised $1 million from 15 accredited investors and one venture capital firm at a $15 million valuation. We are looking to raise an additional $1.5 million for sterilization, 510(k) applications, and inventory.
Tonight, we're only going to discuss one of our 4 disruptive technologies for spine surgery, the LM90. The LM90 received positive feedback from all the vendors at the 2021 North American Spine Society meeting in Boston, and it has the least complicated pathway to market. It's basically a molly bolt for the posterior cervical spine, biomechanically stronger and markedly safer than traditional lateral mass screws. Surgeons will make a horizontal incision in the lateral mass, insert the blade, then rotate it 90 degrees. And for the occiput, in addition to the lateral mass fixation, the LM90 can be used for occipital fixation. If only we had a courageous surgeon to implant the first one. Of course, the samurai surgeon. You'll notice that when implanted, traditional screws violate the cortex of the screw. This can lead to meningitis or significant bleeding, which would cause a larger operation, upsetting our courageous samurai surgeon. The beauty of the LM90 is that it fits in between the inner and outer table of the occipital bone, providing safety for the patient and the surgeon.
Most cases use 6 to 8 LM90s. They cost $50 to manufacture and sell for $700 each. We expect the LM90s to be on the market in the third quarter of 2022.
If the king were alive today, he'd invest in Whitecloud Technologies. Thank you very much.
I'm just here for the donuts.
And now you know what I said in the beginning, how it rang true in the end here for this video. But more importantly, let us really focus on something very interesting, this technology that Whitecloud Technologies has introduced to us. Let me please introduce to you Dr. Frank Castro, who is the Chief Creative Officer, and Natasha Lannan, who is the Chief Executive Officer. Welcome to the pitch. And to begin our questions, let's turn it over to Audrey.
Thanks, Tony. So I'm going to just start with getting a better idea of where you are on this path to commercialization. Can you tell me a little bit more? You say you'll be getting to market Q3 of 2022. Where are you at relative to a regulatory submission and product development and your go-to-market strategy?
Audrey, we have the implants and the instruments at sterilization facilities. We plan to individually package the implants sterilely per implant, and the reusable insertion tools are for sterilization and cleaning at Nelson Corporation. We expect that to take about 30 days, and then our 510(k) submission. We plan to launch to market with the 50 or 60 independent distributors that we used for the Palo Alto CVBR later this year.
Great. And I noticed pull-through strength was one of the key pieces of information that you were showing on your website. Can you just tell me a little bit more about how you plan to sell against the competition, the long-standing competition here?
Rather difficult, I will tell you this, but as a practicing surgeon who has had a number of lateral mass screws pull out on me, I would really like something that would anchor it against cortical bone as opposed to cancellous bone fixation. And in a lot of hospitals that do not have navigation systems to put in cervical pedicle screws, this is a much safer alternative.
Great. And what kind of clinical studies do you have planned?
The first clinical study that actually a cadaveric study that we plan on doing is putting in lateral mass screws using the Margarell technique, and on the opposite side, an LM90, and just measuring pull-out strength.
Okay. And clinical study wise, so when you launch to the market, do you have plans for large patient sample sizes and clinical studies?
I have not made any yet because I know that one of my other implants is going to require an IDE, and so I don't want to get overburdened with it because this is a pretty clear path to market. I'm sure some investigator will ask us, and we will probably partner with them.
Okay, great. Tony,
So
back to you.
Audrey, thank you, Audrey, for those excellent questions. And now let's turn over to Mike for some further thought.
Thanks, Tony, and congratulations, Frank. I have a couple of, I hope simple questions. So you talk about lateral mass screws. In the video, you talked actually about occipital fixation, I think a little bit more. Are you going to have both aspects in your 510K?
Yes.
And do you have a rod that goes with this? I mean, is this part of a rod system with instruments, or is the idea that it'll hang off of anyone's system, or how are you approaching that?
Well, the FDA, as you know, will not let you combine with other systems. So one of our potential avenues is to get 510K approval with our system and then partner with other companies who would like to use this system. But it will come as a complete rod and LM90 system for implantation.
Indicated occiput to C6?
To C7, yes.
C7. And maybe I missed it in the video. Have you done pull-out test? I mean, you must have some basic comparative data to screws.
Yes, and we know that in terms of biomechanical testing, lateral mass screws are placed in either foam grade 20 or foam grade 40, which is the equivalent of cortical bone for the entire length of the screw. So they get a much better pull-out strength than what happens in vivo, where you have a shell of cortical bone and then cancellous bone. So one of the reasons I'd like to do the cadaveric study is to show you that in someone who has poor cancellous bone, you're gaining nothing by thread length.
Yeah.
Now, pedicle screws are different because they're usually 4 times stronger than lateral mass screws, but they're probably also 20 times more dangerous unless you're using navigation.
Well, that was my next question. Is it? I mean, what? And maybe this I'll take this from Scott. But what post commercialization studies will you do, or would you like to do, to demonstrate the safety of this technology?
I guess the best study we could do is a 2-year follow-up showing reduced complication rates, reduced pseudoarthrosis rate, reduced lateral mass, reduced pull-out rate, and reduced radiculopathies from bicortical screws that are placed in the lateral mass, and hopefully reduced C5 palsies, which are very common.
Do you think these are easier to place?
Oh, they're much easier to place because they're much shorter. You know, your typical lateral mass screw is somewhere from 8 to 12 millimeters, and this one goes only 6 millimeters. So unless you're the samurai surgeon or some crazy orthopedic muscle man, it's going to be really hard to damage a nerve or an artery anterior in the spine.
Yeah. So there have been some other, not similar to this, but I know when I was at Medtronic, we had a occipital component that kind of went in and you just turned. You made a slot, you put it in, and you turned it 90 degrees. Do you know, did that ever get commercialized? I don't know.
I don't, and I remember actually seeing a product that a neurosurgeon in Arkansas, and forgive me for not remembering his name, he developed like basically it was a screw with a round head, and he used the occipital burr to make the hole, and then he burred it, 4 millimeters superiorly and just moved the bolt up under the same principles. He sold that to Johnson & Johnson, but apparently they couldn't get it through the FDA, or at least that's what he told me.
I think that was Glenn Pate. I'll bet that was Glenn Pate.
You're probably right.
All right. Well, thank you, Frank. Congratulations. And thank you, Tony.
Well, Mike, those 30 years of experience and more than 120 spine patents have added a lot of value to your ability to interrogate the thought process and the evolution of this technology. Now, Dr. Bruder, from the point of view of a clinician and scientist, we'll turn over to you for some questions.
Thank you, Tony, and congratulations, Frank and Natasha. I'll say I'm not really clear on what the messaging is in that video, because you've mentioned there are 4 product lines. You're going to focus on one. You talked about lateral mass, but then you showed this thing in the occiput. Is the advantage here is that you're between the inner and outer tables of bone, and you get that molly bolt in there? Is that the message?
In the occiput, exactly. So in the occiput, God forbid, if you had a bicortical screw purchase through the inner and outer tables and an infection occurred, you would be very concerned about meningitis. So by not breaching the inner cortical wall of the skull, of the occiput, you have a significantly more safer procedure, hopefully, in theory. But the LM90 and the occipital device are the same device.
I mean, physically,
it's just got a longer blade.
Longer, deeper, or longer, wider?
Longer, wider. So the LM90, the blade is about 8 millimeters total front to back. The occipital blade will be 4 millimeters posteriorly and 12 millimeters anteriorly. So that when you slide it in, you'll have 12 millimeters underneath the outer cortical bone of the occiput.
Okay. So I think I'd offer this perhaps commentary more than question, and that is that if you're able to communicate a little more clearly in your pitch, right? Because this is the pitch, and we're not sharks. We're supposed to be friendly dolphins helping you. That
Sherpas.
Okay. That if you can focus the message on those design features and not be distracted by the samurai swordsman and the Elvis, it's going to make your messaging clearer. I mean, it's entertaining if you're back in the 70s and a fan of John Belushi, but I somehow lost what the message is and what you're actually trying to convey and what you want money for.
Well, thank you, Scott. And Dr. Castro, thank you very much. Also, Natasha Lannan for participating in this segment of the pitch. It's time now for you, our audience, to give your thought. What do you think? Is this company a game changer? Will this technology change the standard of care as postulated? Or do they have more work to do? Go back to the drawing boards. Robin Young, publisher of Orthopedics This Week, will present our poll. Robin, over to you.
Thank you, Tony. Okay, wonderful. All right, let's put up our poll, and audience, you are in the driver's seat. Whitecloud Technologies and a Molly Bolt design. Okay, you've got about 30 seconds. Is this a game changer? Could it challenge standard of care? Is it promising, but there's more work to do? What do you think? So 45% say this is a winner and a future game changer. No doubt this design is truly unique. It could challenge standard of care, 17%. So we had, looks like about 64% promising, but needs more work. Something here hard to see. So about 35% think it takes more work. So congratulations to, of course, Frank Castro. Here, let me share the results here for a great job. So please join us next month for the pitch and register by going to ryortho.com. Have a good night, and I will see you in a month on the pitch.